the settler girl told the giant cowboy rancher. "I ain't pretty, sir, but I can cook." The settler girl told the giant cowboy rancher. "I ain't pretty, sir, but I can cook." Hash, Part 1. The Red Dust Settlement, the twin sons of Crimson Ridge, beat down on the dusty settlement like hammers on an anvil. Emma wiped the sweat from her forehead and looked at the crumpled paper in her hand. It was the last job posting in the entire territory, and it had taken her 3 weeks of travel across the Red Desert to get here. Needed ranch cook, must handle heat, hard work, and isolation. Apply at the Iron Star Ranch 5 miles north of settlement. Emma's stomach growled. She hadn't eaten a proper meal in 2 days. The credits she'd earned from her last job had run out somewhere between here and the mining colony on Terraform Delta. All she had left was her grandmother's old cookbook, a battered suitcase, and her pride. She wasn't much to look at, she knew that. Her face was plain, marked by a scar that ran from her left eyebrow to her cheek. A mining accident when she was 12 had made sure she'd never be called beautiful. Her brown hair hung in a simple braid, and her clothes were patched and worn from months of travel across the frontier worlds. But she could cook. Lord, could she cook. Emma had learned from the best. Her grandmother had been the head chef on the luxury starliner Aurora Dream before settling on the colony world of New Texas. She'd taught Emma everything she knew before passing away last spring. Now Emma was alone in the universe, moving from job to job, trying to find a place where she belonged. The settlement around her was small, just a dozen buildings clustered around a central square. Most were built from the red clay of the planet, their walls thick to keep out the scorching heat. A few settlers moved through the streets, their faces covered with scarves to protect against the ever-present dust. Emma approached the general store, a squat building with a faded sign that read Murphy's Supplies. A bell chimed as she pushed through the door. Inside, the air was cooler, and the smell of leather and spices filled her nose. An old man with a white beard looked up from behind the counter. "Help you, miss?" "I'm looking for directions to the Iron Star Ranch," Emma said. "I'm here about the cook position." The old man's eyebrows shot up. His eyes traveled over her small frame, and Emma could see the doubt written plainly on his face. "You sure about that? Jack Sterling's place?" "That's what the posting said." Murphy scratched his beard. "Well, I suppose it's your funeral. Sterling's a good man, but he's—" The old man paused, searching for words. "He's big, real big, and his ranch is no place for someone who can't handle themselves." "I can handle myself just fine," Emma said, lifting her chin. "I just need directions." The old man sighed and pulled out a worn map. "Follow the north road for about 5 miles. You'll see the sign for Iron Star. Can't miss it. Just be careful, miss. Sterling's had trouble keeping help. The work's hard, and the ranch is isolated. Ain't nobody stayed longer than a month." Emma thanked him and left the store. She bought a canteen of water from a vendor in the square, spending her last few credits. Then she started walking north. The road was rough, carved through the red desert by years of cargo haulers and hover carts. Emma walked in the shade of her hat, her suitcase growing heavier with each step. Around her, the landscape stretched endlessly. Red rocks jutted from the ground like broken teeth. Strange plants with silver leaves grew in clusters, their roots digging deep to find water. In the distance, she could see herds of beasts moving across the plains. They weren't earth cattle, but the genetically modified creatures called red bulls that had been bred to survive on Crimson Ridge. They were massive things, with thick hides that could withstand the heat and horns that glowed faintly in the twilight. After 2 hours of walking, Emma saw the sign. It was made of metal and wood, weathered by the elements but still standing proud. Iron Star Ranch, J. Sterling, proprietor. She turned down the dirt path that led to the ranch. After another mile, the buildings came into view. The main house was large, built from red stone with a wraparound porch. Several barns stood nearby, their roofs covered with solar panels. Fences stretched in every direction, enclosing pastures where the red bulls grazed. As Emma approached, she saw him. Jack Sterling stood near one of the barns, working on a section of fence, and Murphy hadn't been exaggerating. The man was enormous. He had to be at least 7 feet tall, with shoulders as broad as a doorframe. His arms were thick with muscle, and his hands looked like they could crush rocks. He wore a wide-brimmed hat, a dusty shirt, and pants held up by suspenders. Emma's steps faltered for just a moment. Then she remembered the growling in her stomach and the empty pockets. She needed this job. She walked closer, and the man looked up. His face was weathered and tanned, with a strong jaw covered in stubble. His eyes were a startling shade of blue, like the sky on Earth in the old pictures. "Mr. Sterling?" Emma called out. The giant man straightened up, wiping his hands on his pants. That's me. What can I do for you? Emma walked up to him, having to crane her neck to look at his face. I'm here about the cook position. Sterling looked down at her, his expression unreadable. His eyes traveled over her small frame, the worn suitcase, the dusty clothes. Emma could feel his judgment, and something inside her bristled. I know what you're thinking, she said, her voice steady despite the nerves in her belly. I ain't pretty, sir. I ain't strong like those ranch hands you probably hire. But I can cook, and I can cook better than anyone you've ever met. Sterling was quiet for a long moment. Then, to Emma's surprise, a small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. That so? He said, his voice deep as thunder. Yes, sir. Give me a chance, and I'll prove it. Let me make you one meal. If you don't think it's the best food you've ever tasted, I'll walk away. No hard feelings. Sterling crossed his massive arms over his chest. The last 3 cooks I hired couldn't handle the work. It's not just about making food. It's early mornings and late nights. It's cooking for ranch hands who eat like they've been starved for a week. It's dealing with broken equipment and supply shortages. I've worked harder jobs in worse conditions, Emma said. I can handle it. The rancher studied her face, his blue eyes searching. Emma met his gaze without flinching, despite the scar on her face and the doubt she felt inside. Finally, Sterling nodded. All right. Kitchen's in the main house. Pantry's stocked. Dinner's at 6. I've got 5 ranch hands who'll be eating with us. Show me what you can do. Emma felt a surge of relief and determination. You won't regret this, Mr. Sterling. We'll see about that, the giant rancher said. But there was something in his tone, something almost like hope, that made Emma think maybe, just maybe, she'd found a place to call home. She picked up her suitcase and headed toward the main house, ready to cook the meal of her life. End of part 1. Continue to part 2 to see how Emma's first meal at Iron Star Ranch changes everything.